Hello explorers and welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about Ceph and S3. So we know that Ceph is already an object storage kind of deal with this RADOS, and we can actually add to that a RADOS Gateway where you have a bunch of different APIs that you can connect to it and save objects. One of those APIs are the S3 API, which is used by Amazon and other vendors, which is an easy way to store data in your cluster. So let's set that up, switch over to my screen here, and we have first off my little cluster here. We see that the health is okay, we have everything set up as we usually have. We have no object gateways here, so that's one thing that we need to set up. If we look at pools, we have the standard device health metrics pool, but nothing else. So what we want to start with is going over to my client here and logging into one of my nodes. And the nodes need to have the RADOS Gateway installed. It's not a part of the standard Ceph package. It's a different package that you need to install. It's in the same repository as the Ceph packages and has the same version number, but it's a separate package. You need to install that. I have it already installed on all my nodes. Next up, we will create a RADOS Gateway directory. So this will be in the Ceph, RADOS Gateway, Ceph RGV, and then the host name, in this case N1. So now I have that directory. Next up, we will create a key, exactly as we did with with our MDSs when we set up the file system. So we just get or create a key with the specific name. We want the OSDs to be read-write executable. We want the monitors to be read-write, and that's what we want to have in our keyring. It will create that one. Next up, we want to edit our Ceph configuration file in our Ceph directory here. And what we want to put in is this small little configuration where we tell it where the keyring is. We tell it the host name. We also tell it where the log file should be saved, and we set up this front end here. So we will use the Beast protocol with an endpoint of this IP address 8080. And then we put the pool size for our threads, so we know how much it should work. We can increase and decrease this depending on. This is an example where they suggested this thread pool size. But if you have any problems with connections, you will increase this. So it's a good starting point. After that, we can enable the service. So we will just run syscontrol start on these and then look at the status. And we should have a RADOS Gateway running and active with no errors. And if we have done that, we can also enable it so it will be running when the machine is booted up. If we go over here again and look, now we have 3 new pools here created from this RADOS Gateway. So it created a RADOS Gateway root, so .rgv .root, and it also created the default RGV control and the default RGV log. So those are the log directory where it will put the write operations, and control will tell it what kind of data is stored in this buckets and so on. And now we have that set up. If we look at the dashboard here, we should get one object gateway set up. It might take a while for it to update. So let's go back to this system here and go to number 2. We'll do the same operations here with installing, creating a keyring, and adding the configuration to our config file. So go in here, add this configuration. Important here is for every node to update the values, so they will be unique for each node. Let's see here if I can do this. So this is node 2, which ends in IP2. And I will start, check the status and enable the service. Switching over here again, we don't see any object gateways still. That's interesting. There we see one object gateway. So it takes a little while for it to actually end up here. And we also see that it now has created the meta pool. So it will have metadata there as well. And next up, we will go back here and do number 3 as well. And number 3, no difference there. We need a key. And we need to type the password correctly. And I'm using the very secure password of QWERTY, of course. That's the default install password for my test environments, even though I can write it incorrectly when I put it in, even if it's very simple. So let's go here, change these values, and number 3. And we will start that as well. And it's up and running. So now we have 3 different RADOS gateways. 2 of them is currently showing, and we see that we still have these pools. But this is the default pool, and if you are running your own cluster and only running it locally or only have one Ceph setup, then this will just be fine for you. You can keep it as is and not do any changes. And if you want to, you can change it up later if you grow. But let's say that you have this setup and you have multiple data centers. So you want to have one Ceph cluster in one data center, and then in another region you will have another setup, and so on. So you will have multi-site setup of your thing here. Then default is not really a good name for that. So you want to set up a region, a zone that is specific for your Ceph cluster. So I will change this up now to be a more specific setup. And I will do that by creating a new realm. And this realm will be called, I will use the RADOS Gateway admin, realm create, and the RADOS Gateway realm will be EU, European East. I believe Sweden is in the East. And I will set that as my default realm. So we'll create up that, we will get EU East, and we will get a period that is installed here. If we look back at the pools, we don't have any change yet. It's still the same. And then I will go in and create a zone group. So we see here that we have RADOS admin again. So zone group create, we say that zone group should be EU. We want the endpoints of node 1, 8080, node 2, 8080, and node 3, 8080. And we want to use EU East, master, and default. So that's the realm that we want to use in our zone group. So we'll create that. Last but not least, we want to create a zone in this zone group. So this is the data center. So you can have a zone group with multiple data centers in it, and then we have one zone. So RADOS Gateway admin zone create, RGV zone group EU, and then the endpoints here, N1, N2, N3, and then the zone EU East, master, and default. And when I've created that, we can see here that we will get a bunch of new pools created. Might take a while, but we also see here that we have no system key here, no secrets. And these secrets are important to set up in order to have communication between the different data centers. So in order to talk to this, which could be the master data center, you need to add an access and secret so the different data centers can talk to each other. So we will do that later. First off, we'll remove the old one. So we will remove this default zone group remove, zone group default, zone default. So let's remove that. We can commit that, and after that has been committed, we will remove the zone, this, and here we see that we actually get an error when we try to commit this. It says that we have too few page groups on our OSD, so the mon max page group per OSD has been exceeded, and if you see here, it's trying to create these new pools, but it can't because we have too many OSDs per pages per OSDs, and the pages that we have available I know is 250, so it's very close to this limit here. So if we take this configuration and read it, mon max pages per OSD is 250. So let's switch that up to the double, 500, so we have a little bit of a limit that we can work with, and then try to commit this. Then it should change it up and be able to create the last pool here. So we have all the pools, metadata and so on, the control, log and metadata. So there it has done that. And if we ran the commit before, it had when we had created them, it would have done those changes. We will remove the default zone group and also remove the zone group there, and then commit that change. So now we have removed the default things here, and we also want to remove all those pools because we are not going to use those. And deleting pools, you say I want to delete default RGB control, and then you will say that again, default RGB control. Yes, I really mean it, because now you're removing data. What we could have done, we could have changed the name of these pools instead, but as I'm doing a setup where I created them and then will switch name of them directly, it's easier to just create a new zone and then remove the old one. So now you see that I have this EU East, control, log and meta, but I'm not currently using them. So first off, in order to communicate between the zones, I want to set up this synchronization user. So I will use the RADOS Gateway admin user create with the user ID of synchronization user, display name synchronization user on our system. When I've created that, you see I get these access keys and the access secret. And I will take these and copy them over here. So I can use them in my script here instead. There we go. And the secret here, I will take that, copy that over here. And then I will run this command, which will take the specific zone, modify it, and the EU East zone, I will add the access key that we had up above and the secret that we had above. So that will change my zone, so this system key will be set here, and that's what I'm going to use to communicate between the different zones. And after every change that we do, we need to commit. So admin period commit the change. So now we have a key that we can communicate with them, but the RADOS Gateway is actually not using our region now. It's using the default region because we haven't specified it. So now I need to go into each of these nodes in the Ceph configuration file again. And after the last thing in this configuration, I will add RGV underscore zone equals to EU East. And then I will restart that RADOS Gateway, like so. And it takes a little while for it to actually restart. So we'll wait for that. And then we'll go into node 2 and do the same change there as well. So every node needs to have the new configuration in order to know about this new region. And when you set up a new region, you will set up different endpoints and also specify a different region on those hosts. And then you can set up communication between them and everything will be synced for you. So let's see here, want that command here, like that, password again, and we will add the last EU East here, like that, and restart this host as well. So now we have changed it up, so we will use this new region, and this default log is still there. Remove it again. There should not be a log. Yeah, so now I have these and I have the new setup, so I will go into Object Gateway here. What? Connection refused, API point. I don't have any keys to look into this. I can't use my GUI anymore. Well, this is expected behavior because you don't have any user that could log in from your GUI. You haven't set that up. You can keep it that way if you want, but it's easier to handle it if the dashboard is actually have credentials for your newly created cluster. So we run Ceph dashboard set RGV credentials, and I need to do that with sudo, of course. And when I've done that, it will set the credentials and create a dashboard user. So if we go back here and look at daemons, we see that we have N1, N2, and N3. All of them are running in EU East. So that's the zone that they are running on. We have two users here. We have our synchronization user and our dashboard users, and we don't have any buckets. So next up, I will create a user. I will just call it Daniel. The Daniel user. Let's do that, and it will auto-generate keys for me. And I can go in here and actually show those keys. And I want to have these keys, so I will copy one over, and I will go over to a little program I have prepared here. So I will copy the keys over to this program, just so we can test this out. Like that, and I want to have the bucket name of Daniel's testing bucket. So let's create one of those buckets, because my little command will not create the bucket. So I create the bucket here, set the owner to Daniel, and I will place it in my EU East data bucket. And that pool isn't available, but when I create my first bucket, it will create an index pool for my different buckets, and it also will create a data pool. So now you see that it created EU East RGV buckets index. So that's the index that we keep track on all my objects, but I want to save some data as well. So let's go over here. This is a very simple command. I have some Amazon set up here also if I want to save something in Amazon, but let's not do that. We will look at the local client. It will set the Amazon credentials to basic credentials and my access key and secret key. I will create a new Amazon client builder with credentials, and the endpoint is configured to one of my endpoints. You could specify multiple if you want, and then the path style will be access available, and I will build that client and return it. And here I get my local client. I will list the buckets and print them out. And then I will put an object, this POM XML, into the bucket with the bucket name, and then list the objects that is in that bucket. So let's run this little command. It will build. Probably will not take that long to build. So let's wait for that. And now it's running. It's gonna tell us we have a Daniel testing bucket. And then it will push that object and then tell us that there is a POM XML file in our bucket. If we go back here, we see now that we have a bucket's data for this pool as well. So there the data we saved. We can't see any data yet because it takes a little while for the GUI to update. If we go into the RADOS Gateway and look at buckets, we see that we have used the capacity of 4 kilobytes. We have one object in the specific bucket. So that's pretty much it. It's not that much to it to create a bucket or create an object gateway that you can use in your production. If you don't want to change the default setup, so you have the default zone and so on, that's up to you because that's the easiest one. In our cluster at the moment, we're running the default because we don't have multiple data centers. But I wanted to introduce to you that you can set the specific name of this zone. So later on when you create more zones, you can have a specific zone that is telling you where it's located on the map. So this was what I wanted to cover today. I hope that you found this interesting. I hope that you learned something today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. If you like this video, give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues. If you have any comments or suggestions, leave them down in the comment section down below. And I really hope to see you in the next video.